Hello everyone. Sunday, March 27th, 11:54 a.m. Got a jam-packed video session today. I think I'll probably post this one maybe later. I'm going to 5 p.m. mass today. And so I think I'll post it maybe for 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. because I like the live chat. I think that's really cool. I'm so grateful for fellow YouTubers and just people who want to talk about the faith with me that I really like the live chat because I realize that in the world that we live in, not many people can talk about the topics we talk about on my channel without being labeled as something or just completely misunderstood. So I think it's a really cool time to come together. So I'm going to try to do that. If not, so if this isn't posted tonight, it'll be posted tomorrow. And I was having technical difficulties. As you can tell, I'm still kind of sick. Um, Technical difficulties over here. I had to just light my candle that I got. It's an exorcism candle, an exorcised candle from Father Ritberger. And then I have Mary up there, Our Lady. And then St. Joseph is on my other wall. So I feel we can now speak openly without any technical difficulties that Satan is obviously trying to sabotage for me. So, anyway, today is a very serious video, and I don't want to scare anyone, but I think that we need to really take a look at what's going on because we're living in serious times, but we need to be able to prepare. We need to be able to talk about these topics without losing our sense of peace and without losing our sense of joy and purpose and hope. Because ultimately, our hope lies in Christ in heaven. Ultimately, we know we are pilgrims on this earth. This is all temporary. What matters is what you do here in order, as in so much as it associates you with either heaven or hell. Okay, so we are living in wild times. So here's the first thing I want to give one example. I want to give a parable, if you will. My mother, my biological mother, is a drug addict. She was a heroin addict for much of my life. Maybe, I don't know when exactly it happened. I think it was maybe in my teenage years. She went to prison. And recently she told me the story about her prison time. And this was the first time she had gone to prison, and it was for a significant amount of time. And she had basically said prior to her going to prison, she had basically just surrendered to God. God, I can't do this. I can't break this heroin addiction. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be this person anymore. And no addiction, rehabilitation program was working for her, none of that. And so she just gave it to God. She totally surrendered. And the next thing that happened was she went to prison. And out of that prison sentence, she was able to become clean from heroin specifically. Now, she still has other issues and whatever, but from heroin, through that prison sentence, she was able to be healed. And so, my point is this, and she told me, when I prayed that prayer, that's not how I expected it to go. I would have preferred it to just, God to wave his magic wands, me be free from heroin and go on to live a happy life. But that's not how God works because there's a price to be paid. And that price to be paid is sacrifice. The price is the cross. The price is Calvary. I can tell you an example from my personal life. I used a green scapular. I put it underneath somebody's mattress. That person hadn't been to confession in 16 years. The events leading up to that person going to confession were awful. They were tragic. He did something that caused me great pain. Great pain. But out of that pain was regret or an understanding that wow, this was not right that I did this, which caused him to go to confession after 16 years. I would have much rather the Blessed Virgin come down, put her arm around him and say, please go to church and go to confession, and then he went to church, but that's not how it works. It works through the cross. I will tell you about my own conversion. The beginnings of my conversion. I was always, I guess, searching for God in a way, but the beginnings of my real conversion to the Christian God of truth, to the true church of the Catholic Church, was intimate experiences with demons that led to the total destruction of my family. I was not validly married anyway, but I didn't know that at the time. Complete destruction of my family, and it almost cost me my life. And my ex-husband, fake husband, civil ceremony, justice of the peace husband, not baptized, ended up going to prison on federal charges. And through that experience, I came to realize how real demons are, how real the devil is. And I came to experience and realize that it's not God who's my enemy. God doesn't sit up there in heaven looking to punish people. We're already condemned. We're already in hell, really. I mean, we're not, but we are. It seems like it lately. We're already amongst demons. We're already amongst the enemy. God is just there to give us a hand. Hey, this is how you do it. Do this, follow me, and you get to heaven. I'm simplifying, but my point of the matter is this. He's perfect love. He's perfect justice. He's perfect mercy. He's always merciful. You come to him, God, I can't do this. You humble yourself. Lord, this is too big for me. I can't do this. This is not for me. I don't know how to do this. I need you, Lord. I can't do this without you. He will help you. But it takes humble. It takes repentance. It takes the wanting to change your life. It takes being disgusted with yourself and your circumstances and all of that, all the feelings that come with that. Sometimes it takes coming face to face with demons. Sometimes that's what it takes some people like me. To realize that God's not the bad guy. To realize that God's not unfair. We live in an unfair world, but that's not God's fault. That's the product of original sin. That's the product of Eve disobeying the commandments. That's what that is. That's human pride. That's human ambition. It's from Satan. And so we have now reached this great milestone of Russia being consecrated to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, which for me now marks the close of the period of Fatima, which I believe corresponds to this fifth epoch or this fifth age that we are in, at least part of it. And so my question, I guess, to everybody is, that's great, but are we prepared for how God is going to answer this plea for peace, this plea for conversion, this plea for, peace on earth, really? Are we prepared? Because I don't think we are. I think a lot of people are seeing this as, okay, we did what we're supposed to do. God's going to handle the rest. Everything's going to be fine. And I can tell you, you are deceiving yourselves. We are going to have to sit in the prison cell. We are going to have to experience painful events. We are going to have to see the demons face to face. Like, these are things that are going to have to happen before the world converts. Because let me tell you what. This world, as it is right now, is breaking the heart of Mary and Jesus completely. And so I've been on this mindset, this meditation for a week or so, ever since I came in contact with the relic of Mary's veil. And that sorrow, that extreme sorrow that I felt for that 30 seconds to a minute. And I still am not doing it justice, but I began to see things differently. I have begun to see things differently, I should say. Things that used to make me angry now just break my heart. It breaks my heart that I can't even leave my neighborhood. I live in a conservative red state. As soon as I leave my neighborhood, go out on the main road, there's a giant billboard with a woman dressed in a tight, revealing tank top saying, "Love yourself first, get free contraception." That breaks my heart now. Whereas I used to be angry that somebody would put that billboard up. Now it breaks my heart. Now I'm sad. It breaks my heart that there's these parents who just don't raise their kids in the faith. These kids know nothing. They don't even know how to bless themselves. They don't know who Saint Joseph is, but they'll know the latest video games and the latest technology. They know how to use that. That breaks my heart. That makes me sad. It breaks my heart when I see whole families of baptized Catholics not going to Mass. That breaks my heart. It breaks my heart when I see all these false ideologies penetrating everywhere like it's normal. All these Eastern mysticisms, the Buddha, all these Hindu belief systems, the fact that Google Calendars now has the Hindu feast days or whatever on it that reminds me in the morning when I wake up, today marks blah, blah, blah. Like, how do I opt out of that? I don't know. That breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that there's these men and these women who have their identities so wrapped up in being gay or being transgender or whatever that that's their whole identity. That's who they think they are. That breaks my heart. So this world breaks my heart. You can't leave your house and look through the eyes of Mary or Jesus without it breaking your heart. And so through this heartbreak and through the tears of Mary, we will transition. We will transition into peace as she promised, the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, but not before there's much suffering. Not before there's much tragedy. Because here's the thing. Here's where I guess maybe I see things a little different than everyone else. People really focus on the fire falling from the sky and all these wars and all this stuff. And war is awful. War is a tragedy. Fire falling from the sky is super scary. But I'm not scared of any of that. I'll be honest with you. What terrifies me is the spiritual implications of God taking a step back, like he did with me in my own life. Taking a step back and saying, this is who you've chosen, demons. This is who you've chosen as your friends, as your guides. Now, my protection is removed. Here they are. This is because that's what he has to do. Because the natural disasters and all these amazing things that are supposed to happen, and I do believe they will happen, people still aren't going to get it. It's like what I talked about the other day about the word mean. People are going to, if they even believe in God at all, are going to look up at the sky and say God is mean, and they're going to go the opposite way, a lot of them. And they're not going to understand that God's not the enemy, that God's just here trying to help us, and we've chosen this ourselves. We have chosen the demons as our guides. Read the St. Benedict prayer, the St. Benedict medal. It's so powerful because one of the lines is, let the dragon not be my guide. Don't let the light of the cross be my guide, not the dragon. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what it says. But we've chosen the dragon as our guide now on a major level. So there can be no peace. You have to understand there can be no peace. On a practical level, God is a practical God. He's a physical God as well as a spiritual God. There can be no peace because we have demonic entities, demons, and people who work for them in charge of everything. Every nation. Most nations. Maybe there's a few where there's some good people. I don't know. Some good leaders. But this new world order with these psychos who want to microchip everybody and the transhuman agenda and the earth worship and just a culmination of every heresy and pagan ideology, that's what the new age is. It's nothing new about it. It's just they want to bring in it to where the occult and all these heresies and all this earth worship and everything is the norm. And that's what they're doing. It's the age of Aquarius, right? And so that's what's happened. It's all mainstream. And so, because why? What have they said? They have said God's mean. Look at his wrath. He's judgmental. He's a closed-minded, mean God. He's cold-hearted. And that's not true. We know that. But that's what Satan's biggest lie is. God doesn't have your best interest at heart. He just wants to control you. That's the original lie in the garden. Doubting God's goodness. Doubting God's good intentions. And so in order for God, because he is a merciful God, to be able to really save as many souls as he can, I would imagine that the demons and the evil is going to have to be completely unmasked. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I can imagine, and it's not pretty. And that's what terrifies me. I'm not talking about just the evil people, being put on full display and the evil ideologies. I'm talking about the actual demons that roam this earth in all their disgusting forms. That's what I'm talking about. And so that terrifies me way more than anything else because people won't be able to withstand that. People won't be able to withstand seeing what they've gone along with. People won't be able to not fall for the deceptions of Satan without the grace of God, which they have rejected. So that's the most terrifying part to me. But we have to prepare ourselves for. We've been given the rosary for that reason, I do believe. And as far as the people in our lives that are being led by the dragon, we just pray for them to our dying last breath. But there's going to come a time where you're going to have to distance yourself physically because you're not. It's going. I'm already starting to feel it. I'll be honest with you. I find it hard. I find it virtually impossible to be able to even go in some people's houses anymore. Um, and I will always try to reach out, pull them out of enemy territory, but I cannot get entangled in there because I'm just a human. I'm just a human. I can't withstand that amount of assault. And so we make our homes refuges, spiritual refuges. We have rosaries. You walk into my home, you have pictures of Jesus in the garden on your walls. You walk into my home, in the first room, you have saints, you have Padre Pio, you have Saint Therese, you have the Holy Family, you have the Blessed Virgin, you have crucifixes. And now you have a crucifix on my wall that has touched the part of the actual cross. And so we make our homes safe havens. We use the blessed salts. We use the holy water. And that's what protects us. And our biggest concern going forward, to be honest with you, is not, these people arguing over the Latin Mass versus the Novus Ordo. The biggest issue going forward is going to be, can we even can we even have a valid consecration, from what I'm understanding from private revelation, which I'm going to get into. I'm going to transition over into that. So, yeah, as far as the people who are in the darkness, you try your best, but understand you can't become attached to the point where you're putting yourself in a situation that's not pleasing to God. That's the main thing. You have to do the will of God first. And God does not want you to tempt him in a way where you know a house is infested, you keep going in it. That's not pleasing to God. You can be with those people, hang out with those people outside the home, invite them over your home, whatever. But this is the new normal going forward, is my point. This is post-consecration now. We're in uncharted territory. And our prayers better be on point. We don't have to pray for the consecration of Russia anymore and things like that. But our prayers better be, look, Jesus, save me. Jesus, save my family. It's very simple at this point now. It's not complicated. So I'm going to hit the pause button. I'm going to get together a few of the private revelations in regards to what we can expect, I think we can expect going forward. I want to talk specifically about the ends of the fifth epoch, what that looks like, because that's where we are. I do feel that the consecration of Russia marked the end of the Fatima age and is marked, is a clear marker, a buoy, if you will, to the other side of things, which is going to be this period of purification, which will culminate in great, horrible chastisements, both supernatural, both natural, man-made, all of it. And from there, the earth will be regenerated. Well, I don't know about the earth, the faith, at least, the church will be regenerated. And there will maybe be a small period of peace before a regrouping of the saints, if you will, of getting on the same page again to strengthen each other before the final Antichrist comes on the scene, persecutes the whole world, kills the saints, and Jesus himself comes back. So, where I really think we're at is the ends of the fifth epoch, the transition into the sixth epoch. The sixth epoch will be marked with the rise of, well, according to this anyway, according to a lot of private revelation, I know people don't agree with this, but the rise of the great monarch, which I do believe. I do, because if we're in, you can also say, in the rise of the great monarch in the beginning of the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Because if there's going to be peace on earth, if there's going to be a period where the Immaculate Heart of Mary triumphs and there's peace, there has to be a natural governing entity. There has to be some sort of order. God's not just going to let it be a free-for-all, and he's not going to let it be a republic or a democracy, because that's from hell. He's not going to let it be communism or a dictator. It's going to be a Christian monarch. We already know that's his preferred method. We already know heaven's a monarchy, right? And a great holy pontiff to reinvent the church, to renew the church. So I want to read what those chastisements are going to look like, so we know what to expect. Again, we shouldn't lose our peace over this. And then I guess the next video after that will be start with the great monarch and what that's going to look like. And I know a lot of people don't agree with it. Like I said, this isn't my prophecy. This is Saint Hildegard, these, Blessed Bartholomew, Saint Francis of Assisi, just many saints. So, here we go. All right. So, they talk about a couple things that I found interesting, such as these precursors to the Antichrist. So these Antichrist's characters that persecute Christians and things like that. But here's the main part of it that I want to get into. So compacts will be made to destroy the church. All is already sold out by the evil ones, from the government to the church. Evil ones will make pacts with diabolical visions. The evil ones hunger for human flesh and blood. The evil ones work from the bottom of the lodges, and there will be houses of worship built for Satan. That's already happened. The earth will also be punished by the elements unleashed: plagues, crop failures, famines and wars, foreign and civil revolutions, the rise of Islam, utter carnage, all as warning/cleansing chastisements. This is from the prophet Joel. This is from Jesus himself in scripture. This is from Ephraim the Syrian. Invaders from Gog and Magog, i.e. invaders from the Middle East. Muslims will capture Jerusalem. So obviously, that's really, the rise of Islam is something to be on the lookout for. I believe we're at a point right now, like I have said multiple times. People want to talk about Putin trying to bring back communism. No, you have it wrong. Putin is trying to bring back Imperial Russia. And with all the occult stuff that went along with Imperial Russia, that wears the face of Orthodoxy, of the Orthodox Church. I've done videos on that. Go back and watch that. But in order to do that, he needs allies. He needs the Muslims. He needs Islam, and he has them in a lot of ways. Iran is one of them. Syria is another one. And then it's yet to be seen what's going to happen with China. Saint Hildegard. Sorry, there's just so many prophecies. I can't read them all word for word. Saint Francis of Paola. Punishments by invasions from infidels and heretics. Blessed Catherine of Rakonji. The birch tree and Rhineland prophecies. Revolts against rightful rulers. Fathers against sons, sons against fathers. Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich talks about this. Michael Whitman, Bishop George Michael Whitman, wars, revolutions, scarcity, poverty, pestilential maladies, and other misfortunes. Apparition of Our Lady of La Salette. The world will be given up to impious passions. Disorder will be everywhere. The Pope and religious persecuted. A great famine. That's one I want to point out because we see Biden now talking about food shortages. Will also happen at this time. Sister Rose Columba of Tagias. Starvation and earthquakes before the precursor Antichrist. Venerable Mother Marie Josepha of Borg. Every nation shall be shaken by wars and civil wars. So war is a very common theme, and this is where we are. So I don't follow Medjugorje. I don't comment on it on this channel. I try to stick to approved apparitions. I know the first 7 have been approved in that the church cannot make a formal approval of it, but I keep an eye on it. And one of the ones that just got posted on March 25th, I do find to be the truth. And it's allegedly from the Blessed Mother, and she's saying the war has already begun. I hear I'm paraphrasing, read it yourself, but I hear your pleas for peace, but the war has begun, and that's where we're at. Like, we can't avoid a war that's already begun. Marie Julie Jeheni, I've talked about her. Apparitions of Heed, they talk about it. What is coming will surpass everything that has happened in the world up to now. Blessed Sister Elena Elio mentions plagues and wars. Apparitions, Father Bernardo Martinez, apparitions of Cuapa. World War III has been pronounced. And also, Our Lady of Good Success, Our Lady of the Good Event, Our Lady of the Good Purification talks about this. She says the only way that the church and the people of God are going to be released from this demonic activity, from these demonic people, these demonic rulers, is through a great war. And then everything that accompanies war, just think about it on a practical level. Food shortages, famines accompanying war, diseases, just all kinds of stuff. Okay, so let's go back. The timeline further goes on to say, and I'm going to post this again. Again, it's the Great Monarch / Angelic Pontiff Prophecies.blogspot.com. This time of Satan on earth, of confusion, evil, chastisements, the wars, etc., will commence or have its origins in the 19th / 20th centuries and into the 21st century. And obviously that's where we are in Our Lady of Good Success. Hell will be unleashed after the end of into the 20th century. Do you remember Our Lady of Good Success? That's really the only prophecy you even have to know to understand what's happening. She died because it was so frightful. Jesus himself had to revive her. She had to be brought back to life. She literally died. Venerable Bartholomew Holzhauser, wars and disasters will build mid-20th century with strange weapons that can split the sky. Bernard Rembold saw a time of never before seen inventions, horseless carriages and vessels, ships that do not need sails. Men will want to fly like birds. And obviously we've achieved that, which places the coming punishments, according to him, in the 20th century and into the 21st. Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, Satan will be let loose 50 or 60 years before 2000 AD. St. John Bosco saw the church under a great attack after 2 ecumenical councils in the 19th and 20th centuries. Peace will come after that onslaught, according to him. Pierre Lemay died just before World War II, but indicated something horrible was coming before the age of peace occurs, during a time of great industrialization and war as big business with airplanes. Indicates a major decimation of the human population is coming. The world will be squelched by a master hand before people return to the faith. This seems to indicate the 20th into the 21st century. Marie Julie Jeheni, she foretold Pope Leo XIII's vision. I have talked about this. She talks a lot about France, about how things will start in France. And things have started in France. I mean, they were the first one to have, in the Western world, to have, I remember the yellow vest. Remember that? We were told that on the news years ago. What was it, 2018 or something? Before COVID even started, they were having unrest there. Sister Agnes, Our Lady of Akita, timing of apparitions of themselves in 1973 indicates the 20th and 21st centuries. Cardinals and bishops opposing each other is now happening. She talks about fire falling from the sky. Okay. So the ends of the Satanic century and God's cleansing chastisements will happen in the early or mid 21st century, and there's a whole bunch of private revelation that backs that up, like I just went over. And it gets weird. So when the feast of Saint Mark, this is one revelation, of Saint Mark the Apostle, April 25th, shall fall on Easter Sunday. The feast of Saint Anthony of Padua, June 13th, shall occur on the feast of Pentecost, and that of Saint John the Baptist, the 24th, shall come on the feast of Corpus Christi, indicating the next set of events will happen circa 20th to 21st centuries, and this would put it at the years 1943 and 2038. I stay away from years and dates because everything is dependent on prayers. You know, timelines are not set in stone. It's dependent on the prayers of the faithful. Saint Bridget of Sweden, the earth will cry woe when these feast days join. Also, an abomination will happen, circa 1980. Saint Malachi, the last of his list of popes before Rome is destroyed, is now in our time, the 21st century. Blessed Timuccio de Fologna, I'm a horrible Italian, I can't pronounce these Italian names. The renewal will begin in the early 21st century, meaning the chastisements occur at the end of the 20th century and into the 21st. Blessed Bartholomew, the chastisements, ruination of Rome will happen when there is a white-haired pope with the letter B, and that just is freaky because it sounds like Pope Benedict. So this is where we're at. I mean, there's no denying it. There's mountains and mountains of private revelation all pointing to the fact that we are living in this period of chastisements, which will eventually accumulate in an era of peace and of renewal for the church. But first, everything will be destroyed. So people arguing about the new mass versus the old mass, let's just be thankful that we have a mass right now, because I don't think we will in the future. I'll just be honest. Venerable Bartholomew Holzhauser, the great conflicts will escalate in the mid-20th century with strange weapons that can split the sky. It will be a century of heresies. The king will come after, which means he will come in the midst of an age with never before seen technology and advancements, meaning the century would be now when Rome is destroyed. Sister Jeanne de la Royer of the Nativity saw the world had only about 2 centuries left, dating from circa 1800, placing the last chastisements in the beginning of the Age of Peace about the 21st century. Our Lady of La Salette, there is an indication in Maxim's original secret that this will come to pass or end in the 20th or 21st century. And St. John Bosco indicates that peace shall come before 2 full moons happen in the month of flowers, which is May, and that would be a blue moon. In the next closest years, we will have a blue moon. 2 full moons are in May of 2026 and 2045. Now, there's also prophecies. The prophecies regarding the future of China by a Saint Joseph, Friendemetz, also show we are coming close to the chastisements. Between the 20th and 21st centuries, China needed to be converted. As one of the most populous nations, it would soon spread through the world and either bring a blessing or a curse to families on earth, depending if it was Christian or not, and we obviously know it's not, so understand that. However, he predicted bad times, so it's obvious it would spread evil. Missionaries would be thrown out of China. Priests and laity would leave the faith. That's happened. So they have their own state-run church there. The true church is underground. A warning sign that the chastisements are close when there is a sudden proliferation of false visions, mystics, and wonder workers. They will be from Satan. He will be so cunning that people will hardly be able to tell real visionaries from fake ones. The attempt to weed out the fakes from the real ones will cause much division among the faithful. That's happening, as many people will be fooled by the fakes and will defend them. Note of interest, we have had a sudden explosion of visions and mystics since the year 1900. And honestly, like maybe not, but with the internet, it does seem that there is an explosion just because it's so much easier to get a message out there now. When the evil wars and chastisements are close, God's people will feel an interior warning. They will feel inquietude in their hearts. They will feel that the time is not far away for these punishments to strike. That's Marie Julie Jeheny. And that I have felt since right before COVID. The urgency. I felt a sense of urgency that had to get squared away with the Lord. Events in England, Iran, and Jerusalem are the first warnings before the civil wars and chastisements come. Pire Nectuo. The next terrible events will happen when England begins to move. Marie Julie Jeheny. Before the civil wars and chastisements first strike, Paris, France, and Rome, England, Persia, Iran, and Jerusalem will suffer. The people of these lands will suffer. Marie Julie predicted England would be betrayed by the influence of a queen, and before a queen descends from the throne, England would be divided into 4 parts. Weird. Alois Lamare saw tension and war in the Middle East would break out before the great wars and invasions happen. That's obviously happened. Hello, I was in Iraq in 2009. St. Catherine Labouré and St. Mary of St. Peter of Tours were forewarned of the coming chastisements. St. Mary of Tours wrote them down and they were purposely hidden. Marie Julie Jeheny foretold when these writings are rediscovered, the chastisements, especially of the strange lightning, will be close. I've dreamt, before I read this, before I came across this website, I've dreamt of the strange lightning, to be honest with you. And that was literally my dream. I'm like, it was strange lightning. I don't know how else to say it. Another forerunner of the great chastisements, children will be corrupted. Parents will corrupt their children with impurity and raise them in adult matters before they reach the age of reason. TV, I mean, all kinds of nonsense, right? The red government will then force parents to give up their children to them to be corrupted. A government program that will last circa 44 days, and we see this with the public school systems. I mean, this is happening. A new form of socialism, communism, will insidiously spread throughout the earth. This has happened. Marie Julie Jeheny predicts a red terror and a red revolution. Okay, then, so these are kinds of like the precursor. The first of the Red Revolution against God and the Church will come from the Chamber of Hell in France. More warning signs. Our Lady will appear again near La Salette. She will also come to Amiens, France, with the divine infant to warn the earth. And a mystic near Tours will announce the coming bloodshed and the approaching arrival of the great monarch before it happens. A sign in the sky will be seen before the great chastisements of the Red War and the 3 days of fire, darkness to come. Blessed Sister Elena. Warning signs in the firmament will happen 24 hours before the Civil War, and persecutions break out in Paris and Rome. Now we transition, so those were kind of the minor ones, wars, famines, plagues, everything we're already seeing. And then there will transition into this phase of major chastisements, and they're saying, the private revelation, some of them are saying these major chastisements will begin with Paris first. The Civil War will begin in Paris. It will be a government conspiracy started by an evil handful of men. They will work to bring down the economy and create a lack of jobs. And this is where I thought of the yellow vest people. This will create unrest that will suddenly explode, especially when the conspirators set the walls of the city on fire with violent sparks. The workers will revolt. And so if you remember those, I don't know if the other stuff has happened. I would be interested to know. But the yellow vest, that's really what that reminded me of. So they interpret this as a cryptic reference that seems to suggest suicide bombers. It will happen in June and July. The cries of woe will sound. Okay, so we have war in Paris. It will happen so fast no one will have time to escape. Roads and passages will be blocked. The carnage will begin. When the government has seen the carnage begin, it will fly away like a bird to let the country free in its carnage. So just complete lawlessness. The corrupted youth will be Christ's worst enemies at this time and will be the most active in calling out death to Christ, death to the Christians. Details from other mystics. Abbe Voslin, before the cataclysm breaks, there will be a lot of talk about money, meaning people will only seem concerned with worldly economic concerns. Blasphemous writings against religion will spread, bitter disputes will occur um, between writers of opposing sentiments, then blood will flow. Paris will be filled with murderers, and the Seine River will flow red in waves to the sea. Blood will flow in other parts. They also warned about the euro, predicted that foreigners would first come, migrant refugee crisis maybe, then economic hardships with high inflation, currency losing value, and high taxes no one can pay. Then the revolts. He saw Paris, the city with the Iron Tower, being torn apart by civil revolts, especially by the youth. So there's a lot about France. France will be made to fall in on itself, civil war. The civil wars and uprisings will also happen in Italy and Rome practically at the same time. Sister Maria Steiner warns the world will suffer, but Rome and Italy will suffer more. The sword and blood is mentioned as the cleansing chastisement for Italy. Julie Jeheny, Italy is in an uproar about the time Paris is torn apart by civil revolt. France will be brought to ruin, and Italy and Rome will be ravaged by revolts, uprising, also communist, socialist invaders. So it seems to me that the New World Order leaders will cause these civil wars in all these countries, which will then weaken them and pave the way for the heretic armies to then take over. The heretic army I refer to is the Russia, Islam, China alliance. That's what I refer to it as. Timing of the wars in Germany and Europe also correspond to June-July timing of the Paris uprising, according to... So France will be the first to suffer. There's a lot about civil war. There's also a lot about the three crisis periods of France, the civil war in France. In one, we talk about the apostate religion. So the civil war in France will entail three crisis periods. The apostate state religion will be put into force. Then the civil war and bloodshed will start in Paris with the attack and suppression of the true church. This will happen for 3 months. The invasion of the dust of the foreigner will happen, and the bloodshed will spread through the country. This phase will last 4 weeks. The continuing invasion with the attempt to place a pretender on the throne of France. The contender will not succeed. The armies of the great monarch will be called in the third crisis period. And this is according to Marie-Julie Jeheny. St. John Bosco also agrees that France will be struck gravely 3 times. And Abbé Mattei agrees a contender to the French throne will ascend, but his reign will be very short during this turbulent period of this republic. Now, here's what really is just horrifying to me, because the rise of a heretic apostate religion, and this is what will cause the supernatural chastisements, the demons manifesting, because it will be a religion that calls down demons, in my opinion, that gives them free reign, that lets them go about unchecked. Bernard Rampold Spielbaum saw that a group of heretics of small minds who claim they know God and His will are going to try to make a new kingdom of Christ, i.e., a new religion. People will consider these people holy like angels, but they will have the devil in them. This religion or new kingdom will fulfill worldly fleshly appetites and be a breeding ground for vice. Multiple wives will be allowed, up to 3, he saw. Now, there's obvious correlations with Islam and other religions that allow for more than one wife. The faith will die in France. 3/4 of France will not practice or hardly practice religion. And those who do not practice it, who do practice it, do it without really doing so. The apostate religion, it will resemble Islam. Details from Marie-Julie Jeheny, according to her, it will resemble Islam. When this religion is imposed by the evil government in France, the evil law will be passed in the month of June. The bishops and apostles will be permitted to practice the true faith at first. Then there will be a crackdown. There will be a call to stop religious funerals and the ringing of church bells. Eventually, a second book of worship rites will be introduced, a new mass. That will be sealed with the words of the abyss. It will resemble Islam. They will attempt to erase everything of the true faith and invent new baptisms, new sacraments, new confraternities. It will be a merry religion that will not preach the cross or the necessity of baptism. The bishops will give the order for the religious to flee. Religious orders will be suppressed. The Jesuits will suffer in particular. True priests will go into hiding, but eventually the evil government will pass a law requiring bishops to turn them in. The bishops will hold a meeting to figure out what to do, but the bishops will be weak. Only 3 will remain faithful. The rest will fall and enter into the false religion to save themselves from the persecutions. Those who do will not be forgiven by God. Many priests will also give up the true faith to save their lives. These Judas priests will also be lost. Many souls will be led to hell due to these weak bishops and priests. The persecution will be bloody. The homes of the faithful will be searched to find the hiding priests. Religious houses will not be safe. Traps will be set. The church we know will disappear for a time. There will be no priests, no blessed sacrament, no confession. It will be horrific. This apostasy and persecution will also spread to surrounding countries. Few souls will remain faithful. There will be firing squads and the guillotine will be brought back. Rare exceptional chastisements of strange lightning, thunder, and earthquakes will be sent for the sake of converting sinners. Jesus himself says earthquakes, when kingdom rises against kingdom, etc., seems to indicate more than a natural series of earthquakes. A horrible storm will break first before the carnage. Earthquakes and storms. John Bosco predicts a very violent hurricane before the renewal, possibly in Rome. Marie Julie Jahenny, strange thunders and lightnings that will be frightening, then burn and scorch the earth. I saw strange lightning as having an effect on the power grid. That's what I saw. That will scorch the earth. Apparently this will happen during the civil wars in Paris and Rome to try and convert the wicked before it's too late. There will be one last major earthquake that will last for 43 days. Alois, and I had never heard about this strange lightning. It just happened that I dreamt of it and came across this. Alois Irimer says a great lightning, thunder, hail, and earthquake will happen at the time of the wars and just before the 3 days hit also. When the snow disappears on Watsman Mountain, temperatures rise, then the days of darkness will come. An unusual plague will strike the earth. The burning plague of burning face plague as the wars are raging. Prophet Joel, people will be in pain and have faces like a kettle, which means burnt. Prophet Isaiah, gripings and burnt face chastisement. Blessed Bartholomew, Cambi de Saluzzo, the ardent face will show his prophecies to be true. Bernard Rembold Spielbahn, when the wars spread to Germany, he notes the foreigners will bring a black plague with them, i.e. a very deadly plague. This could be the burning plague that will spread during the wars. And this is all biological warfare. Like, that's what I mean about the wars and diseases go hand in hand because it's all biological warfare. We've already seen that. We've already experienced it. COVID. But it's coming in more, it's going to get worse and worse. That was just a forerunner. A wake-up call. Marie Julie Jahenny, she says the burning plague will cause flesh to look like it has a deep burn and will strike when the evil ones will stop their bloody wars and persecutions for a short respite. Apparently during the first crisis period at Paris or during the first and second periods. Apparently it seems scientists will cause it to happen over Paris during the short respite, which suggests it is a weapon of biological warfare. Exactly. The plague will spread so fast and is so contagious, the corpses will spread a stench that kills. The only remedy to cure this disease in time is the white hawthorn leaf remedy. There you go, get some white hawthorn. France and Germany will be at war. England will also suffer greatly. The King of England will be killed. Hard to place when this will happen. Bernard, when France revolts, so will Germany. Then it will suffer Turkish and Russian invaders, World War III. Exactly. Turkey's not our friend, I'll be honest with you. Turkey's not our friend. I know they act like it, but they're not. Cure of Ars seems to indicate France and Germany will be at war. Germany will invade France again, a great long bloody war. Alos Irulmer saw a gigantic bomb dropped into the sea. It creates tidal waves and earthquakes. England is submerged in the south. Okay, the second crisis period of the French Civil War will happen. So note again, these civil wars will grow into World War III, and that's already kicked off. We're already seeing that's already started. This is the Ukraine, and I mean you can say that this Russia conflict with Ukraine is in a sense a civil war because Ukraine was originally part of Russia. Okay, all nations shall be shaken or suffer from wars and revolutions. Blessed Sister Elena. Okay, hold on. This I found interesting. Alos Irlamayar, Russian invasion. The center of Europe will be torn apart by war. The Rhine Valley will be devastated. A yellow dragon will also invade Alaska and Canada, but it won't get far. He also saw a horned crescent moon at the Rhine that will want to devour everything, possibly represents the Turkish Islamic invaders. And Russia is on the news talking about they want Alaska back for war reparations. So I found that interesting. Blessed Sister Elena, the Russians will overrun Europe. A red revolution. Bodies will come as far as Switzerland and float down the Rhine. Father Don Dolindo Rutulo says there will be a great exterminating war before the great monarch and angelic pontiff reign. Apparently, it will be the Russians who are called to shore up the Red Revolution in France. They will fight America as well with their secret weapons and overthrow Europe. The war will be so bloody the Rhine will be filled with corpses and blood, with bodies coming as far as Switzerland. Other prophecies support this. Obviously, at the time, this prophecy was made about Russia, Blessed Elena, and also Alos Erlenmeyer was still a communist socialist republic. It is possible it might return to that. Okay. Eventually, Paris will be utterly destroyed by these wars. There will also be a chastisement of blood rain. Difficult to place when this will happen, but it will happen during the chastisements and the blood will flow, so sometime during the persecutions. A black and blue rainbow will appear over the earth, and out of it will come a blood rain that will stick like paint. A cross will show in the rain, and it will bear the 5 wounds as a sign. The rain that falls on the ground will be undrinkable. Also, a great burning heat will come from the earth at this time and send up poisonous stench and vapors that will kill. The faithful are called to lock themselves up for 7 weeks. This is how long it will last. No one must go outside due to the stenches and the heat. And that's Mary Julie Jeheny. Bernard Rambold Spielbahn mentions a poison that will rain on the fields and cause a great hunger and famine. Eventually, Paris will be destroyed. 43-day earthquake. France will fall to ruins and be ravaged like ungrateful Jerusalem. Blessed Sister Elena. Jerusalem hints at the destruction of a capital city. It was destroyed by pagan occupiers for rejecting Christ as the Messiah, and this could be a hint. Paris will be destroyed for becoming anti-God and failing to accept the reign of the Sacred Heart as foretold in other prophecies. Our Lady of Victories, church in Paris will be spared. Marseilles will be destroyed in a little time after Paris. The north of France will suffer. Prague will be destroyed. 3 large towns and 5 small ones in France will completely perish from top to bottom. Austria will not suffer as much, okay? In Germany, a great decisive battle will overrun the Rhine. Blood will flow in the Rhine, and the city of Cologne will see the worst and or the last of the battles. That's the birch tree in Rhineland prophecies. In France, the blood will run mostly in the cities. France will be punished like this due to sacrileges against the Blessed Sacrament and disbelief in the Incarnation. During this war, a new satanically inspired biological or chemical weapon will be invented and dropped in black boxes from airplanes in a yellow line, half as wide as the Bavaria. This line will stretch from the Black Sea to the north. No human, plant, or animal will survive touching the dust that settles in this yellow line for over a year. The poison will be so bad that the flesh will fall from the bones. It will stop the Russian advance. The west of France will be spared most of the chastisements. St. Peter will establish refuges for the faithful to protect them during these chastisements. There appears to be 4 main places, according to Blessed Elisabetta Canori Mora. She does not mention where these are, however. We can safely guess Brittany slash the Vendée in France is one of them. It will be due to the Holy Land of Brittany, especially devoted to Our Lady, that France is spared at all. France will be so degenerate that it will resemble a dead branch, and people will wonder why it was left with a green leaf at all. It will be thanks to Brittany. Our Lady must also be invoked under the title Queen of France. Okay, so the age of peace and reign of the Sacred Heart will come through the great monarch. France is very close to the heart of Christ. The graces reserved for it, the reign of the Sacred Heart, will not happen until the King of France formally consecrates himself, his family, as well as his country to the Sacred Heart, builds a chapel in its honor, and honors this consecration with a feast day, formally celebrated every year on the first Friday after the Feast of the Sacred Heart, and that's Sister Marie de Jesus. Pray to the Sacred Heart, St. Michael, and St. Louis the Ninth for God to send the King. He will be sent at the third crisis period during the Civil War when the evil one will put a contender on the throne. The age of peace longed for by mankind will come through the Holy Roman Emperor, i.e. a great Catholic monarch. I mean, there's so many prophecies. I want to read about the 3 days of darkness. Okay. Again, it's kind of repetitive. God will send the first of the major warning signs leading up to these major chastisements at the beginning of each year in nature in the cold months. Early warning signs includes a period of darkness over Brittany, a strange lightning, thunder, and earthquake. The world will experience a minor judgment. Those not in a state of grace when it happens will be frightful. Will find it frightful. Marie Julie Jeheni, the days of the chastisements and also the miracles leading up to the arrival of the great monarch will resemble the day of judgment. It's all, and also the apparitions of heed. So a lot of people think this is a worldwide illumination of conscience. I don't know. I don't believe that's what it is, to be honest with you. I don't. Um, I don't know. Maybe it could be. Timing not given, but there will be a momentary plague that will come and go almost like in an instant. It will be universal and strike the ungodly, but beware of anyone attempting to give details on this. God will not give the details. He's reserving this secret for himself, and that's Venerable Bernardo Maria Clausi. And so he's warning of trying to figure out what this minor judgment is, this momentary plague. There will be signs in the sun and the moon before or during the great carnage, then the 3 days of darkness. This will come during or after the war. Prophet Joel, sun and the moon darkened before the day of the Lord, 3 days of darkness. Prophet Isaiah, the sun will be darkened, the moon and stars not give their light, 3 days of darkness. And this one obviously is true. So this is one of the few, like, really fantastical prophecies that I do believe is valid, the 3 days of darkness. I'm very skeptical about the worldwide illumination of conscience. If you don't know what that is, I don't talk about it much, but you can get the book The Warning to find out. I think a lot of what they say in the warning to back up this theory is taken way out of context, and I don't like it. I don't believe that that's what is being referred to in a lot of the things that they point out. But I do believe in this 3 days of darkness. Because Jesus himself says it. Signs in the heavens and the sun will grow dark, the moon won't give light, the stars will fall. That sounds like the 3 days of darkness. Blessed Bartholomew, Combi de Saluzzo, possibly a warning before a great 3-day bloodbath of killing in Milan and the rest of Italy, but could also be related to the 3 days of darkness. Blessed Anna Maria Taggi, a literal darkness will cover the earth and demons will be let loose. And this is the one I want to read, and I'm going to end it on this. She's a great prophet, Maria. I saw her relic when I went and visited the relics. It was really cool. I'm going to read a little bit about her. I'm going to read her prophecies, and then I'm going to end it for today. Because I really want to drive home the fact that, yes, these physical wars and plagues and famines are awful, but what keeps me up at night is not that. I sleep like a baby. Talk to me about the sun falling out of the sky and I sleep like a baby. You talk to me about demons being let loose and the hedge of protection of God being removed from individuals, and that keeps me up at night. Because without the protection of God, without the buffer of God, these demons will just totally annihilate people's souls, not just their bodies. Okay, well, I'm not going to read her whole story, but she is one of the great mystics, yet she achieved her sanctification by living the ordinary life of wife and mother in a spirit of Christian mission in compliance with God's will. Her daily attendance at Mass, her total surrender to God, her readiness to help anyone in need, and her being an active member of the Third Order of the Most Holy Trinity were at the same time the sources and fruits of her intense spiritual life. She had a very close friend who was also a Blessed Elizabeth Conori Mora, who was also a wife and mother. They helped and supported each other in their marriages and difficulties and grew together in holiness and sanctity in their married vocation. She entered the Third Order of the Most Holy Trinity on December 26, 1808. God enriched her with many supernatural gifts. The most unusual of these was the apparition of a luminous globe like a miniature sun, which shone before her eyes at all times, and in which, for 47 years, she could see present and future events anywhere in the world, as well as the state of grace of individuals, living or dead. In it she could foresee the revolutions, the wars, the designs of governments, the aims of secret societies, superstitions, and crimes, the reward of the saints, and the punishments, both temporal and eternal, prepared by God for all human transgressions. She died on June 9, 1837, and the Church declared her a blessed in 1920. Her incorrupt mortal remains lie in the chapel of the Madonna in the Basilica of San Crisono in Rome, Italy. The Trinitarians are actively promoting the cause of her canonization. At times, the visions shown to her in the mystic sun were so terrifying that she didn't want to look, she admitted, and often kept her eyes turned away when possible. Among the visions were revelations concerning civil wars of France, the angelic pontiff, and the chastisements that would strike the earth, which include the 3 days of darkness. As she didn't write her visions down, they were collected by her visitors, and in particular her spiritual director, Monsignor Raphael Natali, to whom she was under obedience to reveal everything, and who first revealed this great chastisement prophecy during her beatification process, which opened in 1863. Okay, so let's read some of her stuff. Things will be so convulsed that man will no longer be able to put things in order, but the omnipotent arm of the Lord will remedy everything. She told me that the great scourge of the earth had been mitigated, but not that of heaven, for it would be horrible, shocking, and universal. Truly, the universal nature of the coming chastisement makes it a judgment of nations. The great chastisement would occur long after the holy people of her epoch had been buried, he continued. It will arrive unexpectedly, and in it the wicked will be destroyed. I saw the earth enveloped in flames, many buildings crumbling, the earth and heavens seemed to be in agony. Many millions of men will die by steel, some in wars, others in conflicts, and millions more by unforeseen death, and this throughout the whole world. As a result, entire nations will return to the unity of the Catholic Church. Many Turks, Gentiles, and Hebrews will be converted in a way that will surprise Catholics, who will be amazed by the fervor and observance they will show in their lives. Yeah, I'm amazed that the Muslims fast better than we do. Just saying. In short, she told me that the Lord wanted to purge the world and his church, and for that he had prepared a new crop of souls, who unknown would appear to perform great works and surprising miracles. She told me that after the Lord had cleansed the earth with wars, revolutions, and other calamities, heaven would begin its chastisement. So, there's we see again this idea of 2 periods of chastisements. First is the purification and a cleansing, apparently with wars, revolutions, plagues, other calamities, natural disasters. Then there's heavenly chastisements, and those are super terrifying. So, for at the end of the scourge there will be a general convulsion of shocking meteorological phenomena with many deaths. The servant of God told me several times that the Lord showed her in the mysterious sun the universal triumph of the renewed church, by a manner so great and surprising that she could not describe it. It is very true that the venerable servant of God announced the scourge of the 3 days of darkness spread over all the earth. In these circumstances, the windows should be closed, and leaning over them should be avoided, and it will be imperative to pray the Holy Rosary and pray. Let me go back. So there is no question Blessed Anna Maria Taggi saw in her mystic sun several visions of clouds and darkness, and other horrific disasters descending upon the earth during the times of the punishments. This has been mentioned during her beatification process, as seen above. However, the mention of a specific time frame of 3 days for the foretold purge of the earth was first allegedly revealed by her spiritual director, who was not only her strongest supporter, but also gave ample testimony. So he revealed this in 1871. I'm sorry, of August of 1864. And he said that it's very true that the venerable servant of God announced the scourge of the 3 days of darkness spread over the earth. In these circumstances, the windows should be closed and leaning over them should be avoided, and will be imperative to pray the Holy Rosary. Of interest, the author Edward Thomas Healy, who wrote the Religious Library, says in Volume 5 of his work, which is about Blessed Anna Maria Taggi, that he personally knew a parish priest that was stationed in the Church of San Marcello and who was present when Dr. Raphael Natali came to verify the correct date for Blessed Anna's marriage from the Paris register. The priest allegedly confirmed to Mr. Healy that Father Natali was also told him of the 3 days of darkness as revealed to him by Blessed Anna, that it was true prophecy, and that this encounter with Father Natali happened in 1863. The priest confirmed to Mr. Healy it would be a time of 3 days of physical darkness with no light that would shine except for the blessed candles. She did not give him any dates when this would happen, but said to him that it will come to pass when every human hope concerning the persecuted church will have vanished. So, when it looks like the church is completely annihilated and there's no hope of its resurrection, then the 3 days of darkness will happen. Another thing she said, the holy woman prayed for the church and for the whole world. She suddenly saw a globe similar to the earth in the air, completely surrounded by flames which threatened to consume it. On one side was Jesus crucified, shedding a torrent of blood. At his feet was the Blessed Virgin, who, having laid down her queen's mantle, urged the divine Savior to stop, by the merits of his blood offered for sinners, the plagues which men were threatens. After the 3 days of darkness, Saints Peter and Paul, having come down from heaven, will preach throughout the world and designate a new pope. A great light will flash from their bodies and will settle upon the future pontiff. There shall be innumerable conversions of heretics who will return to the bosom of the church. All will note the edifying conduct of their lives. On the 3 days of darkness, a very thick darkness shall envelop the earth during 3 days. This awful darkness shall be impregnated with such pestilential vapors, and filled with such frightful apparitions. And I believe. I don't know about the rest of it, but I do know God is going to have to reveal to people what they have done, what their behavior has affected spiritually, and what they have been affected by. He's going to have to reveal to them demons. I don't see a way around it. So be impregnated with such I can't say that word, pestilential vapors, and filled with such frightful apparitions that they will cause in a more special manner the death of the hypocritical or avowed enemies of the Holy Church. I think they'll just die of fright. Because all these people float around not even understanding demons, not getting it. When they really do come face to face with what they've been living with, they'll die of fright. Really. Anna Maria announced that on this terrible occasion, so many of these wicked men, enemies of his church and of their God, shall be killed by this divine scourge, that their corpses round Rome will be as numerous as the fish, which a then recent inundation of the Tiber had carried into the city. All the enemies of the church, secret as well as known, will perish over the whole earth during that universal darkness, with the exception of some few whom God will soon convert after. The air shall be infected by demons who will appear under all sorts of hideous forms. On this subject, Anna Maria has given several directions to the faithful. One of these was to procure blessed candles which alone shall give light during the darkness. Also to remain in prayer, to recite the Holy Rosary, not to attempt to look out for idle and vain curiosity, i.e., or they will fall down dead on the spot from horror, from fright. Your heart will fail. A heavenly apparition shall come to reassure the faithful. St. Peter and St. Paul will appear on the clouds, and all men shall see them, and in a supernatural manner faith shall return to their hearts. Innumerable conversions of heretics shall cause universal edification. And I guess she asked, Dearly beloved, to Jesus, what is the remedy for this disaster? And Jesus Christ answered, My child, the church, my spouse, my father, and myself shall remedy everything. For after a punishment, those who shall survive shall have to conduct themselves well. At this point, that's when she saw the conversions of heretics. And so there's many more. This video can drag on all day long, and I'll just post again the link to that below of the website that I'm reading from. But I would say out of all the things, yeah, we have to prepare physically for famines and things like this. But I'll tell you what, spiritually, we have to start getting in this mindset where we're going to see things that we haven't seen before. We're going to see demons. We're going to see preternatural things. And I feel bad for the people that don't think these things exist, and I feel bad for the people that maybe do know they exist and work and cooperate with them, and it's just, we're in for a lot. So, yes, praise God that the consecration finally happened, but are we prepared for the answer to that prayer? Have a blessed Sunday. Joan of Arc Media out.